The world of the future has been struck by a mysterious virus. Everyone infected is subjected to brutal experiments in an attempt to prevent the disease from spreading. The events unfold in a cyberpunk future. Several black spheres are released from an aircraft and smash into a secure government laboratory building. Once they are inside, the spheres transform into warriors in dark suits, who mercilessly slaughter the lab technicians. Having blasted through the security doors, they enter the lab. Within are enormous tanks of red fluid extracted from humans. The warriors intend to sabotage the facility, but the guards eliminate them. Police officers examine the bodies of the intruders and discover they have vampire fangs. The warriors turn out to be hæmophages, mutants infected with a devastating virus. One of the officers suggests that they intended to infect the fluid in the tanks. The officers suddenly notice with horror a mutant's red fluid on the chief's hands. To prevent further contamination, they instantly eliminate him. It turns out that scientists have discovered a mysterious virus that has existed for centuries. The military tried to modify it in order to create invincible super soldiers. But as a result, an incurable form of the disease emerged. Once out into the world, the disease infected a portion of the world's population. A worldwide pandemic broke out and the disease became everyone's greatest fear. Those infected became mutants with vampire fangs, stronger, faster and smarter than humans, but with a short lifespan due to the constant exposure to the virus. Health authorities tried to protect the population. At first the infected had to wear identifying armbands, then they were placed in special camps, and eventually made outcasts. The infected people had to go underground, where they began mounting a resistance. It was Violet Sheriff who became its founder. Years ago, while she was pregnant, she and her husband had been attacked by a hæmophage. A policeman shot the hæmophage, and Violet became infected from its red fluid. Her husband did not survive, and the woman herself was placed in a laboratory and her pregnancy was terminated. Since then, a war between hæmophages and humans began. Because of the state of emergency, the healthcare organization called the Supreme Ministry, which is run by Vice Cardinal Ferdinand Dexys, has been given world power. He is determined to destroy all hæmophages with a secret weapon that has been in development for the past 10 years.
Is there an ETA, sir?
Now, a courier is retrieving to bring here to the Archministry as we speak.
A young female courier with purple hair drives up to the ultra-secure lab. She successfully passes the scanner, but these are not all the security measures. Once inside, she changes her hair color and enters a white room with an unusual chair. It immediately expands pincers that stretch the girl's face. Special needles take samples of her DNA from her retinas, veins, and mouth. The lab technicians explain that such measures are necessary to make sure she is a human and not a hæmophage. The girl successfully passes all the tests. She is then told to undress completely and go to the next room, where her body is scanned with ultraviolet light. After all the checks, she is escorted to the room where the secret weapon is kept, which is supposed to annihilate the hæmophages. The courier has to deliver the weapon discreetly to the High Ministry while an armed convoy distracts the attention of the rebels. The facility manager warns the young woman that under no circumstances should she open the secret case while the mission is in progress. The courier enters a room protected by armed guards. The scientist scrutinizes the girl's actions and asks if she is really ready for the mission. She confirms her readiness and he unlocks the weapon. The girl puts a signature with her DNA and the scientist hands her a white case. He cautions that the weapon will self-destruct in 9 hours if she doesn't deliver it to the recipient. Meanwhile, another girl, who also appears to be a courier on a special assignment, drives up to the building. It turns out that the girl with the purple hair is the rebel leader, Violet. A scientist tries to prevent Violet from escaping with the case, but the young woman breaks his arm and engages in a fierce fight with the guards. Thanks to her strength, she easily deflects her opponent's attacks and deals crushing blows to them. After grabbing the case, the girl prepares to flee, but she becomes sick. She pulls out a syringe hidden in her body and injects herself with a life-saving drug. Meanwhile, a general alarm is sounded in the building. The director of the research center is convinced that the rebel will not be able to get out of the building alive. Another group of guards is waiting for the young woman in the corridor. She activates a device that allows her to control gravity. Climbing up to the ceiling, the Supergirl fires at her opponents from above.
Because I hate humans with every fiber of my being. And I'll kill every single one of them, almost as quickly as they'll try and kill me.
Recognizing the identity of the intruder, the head of the facility talks to her on the PA system. He tries to figure out why she stole the weapon. Violet ascends to the roof, destroying all the guards in her path. As she jumps down, she finds herself surrounded by men in black. 2 katanas appear in her hands, and within the next moment, the bodies of her opponents fall to the ground. Violet rides away on her motorcycle, and the guards go after her in pursuit. She receives orders from an accomplice to immediately destroy the case if she is in danger. But the young woman does not intend to give up so easily and decides to demonstrate all her abilities to her adversaries. Activating the gravitational device again, she proceeds to race on the walls of the skyscrapers. At this point she is being pursued by helicopters, but she skillfully evades them and climbs to the roof of a building. Tired of being chased, the Supergirl speeds up on her motorcycle and heads straight for the enemy helicopter. The enemies shoot at the rebel in panic, but she remains unharmed. She flies from one skyscraper to another, blowing up the enemy helicopter along the way. She continues her escape on foot. She is contacted via hologram by the rebel leader Nerva, who is not happy with her risky behavior. He orders her to deliver the case with the weapon to their hideout immediately. Once in the elevator, the girl decides to find out what is in the container. She is shocked to see a 9-year-old child inside. Upon arriving at the rebel hideout, Violet informs Nerva that it's not a secret weapon but a child inside. Nerva explains that his blood must be full of antigens that will destroy the hæmophages instantly. If its cells are dispersed in the atmosphere, it will work as an insecticide for people like them. This is why he takes a gun to eliminate the weapon. Violet tries to talk the gang leader into keeping the child alive. She is convinced that if the child is a carrier of the virus, an antivirus can be created and innocence can be saved. The antigens in his blood could also be the key to curing the hæmophages. However, Nerva's hatred for humans is stronger than his belief in saving his species.
If there's a choice, I've already made it.
It's a child.
Violet leaves, but it turns out that she placed a hologram of the boy in the case, while the real child was obediently waiting for her in the elevator. In order to save him, the young woman is forced to shoot her former associates. While trying to escape, they end up on a rooftop controlled by the Chinese mafia. Although they do not answer to the government or the hæmophages, they still refuse to let Violet through without a fight. The armed mafia surrounds the girl while she listens intently to their body vibrations. Sensing that the first shot will be fired by the gangster behind her, Violet deftly dodges the bullet and it flies straight into the forehead of the mob leader. Using the same technique, she gets rid of the other opponents, literally forcing them to shoot each other. All of a sudden, the girl notices the boy standing on the edge of the roof, ready to jump off. While talking affectionately to the child, she convinces him to come down. The two are attacked once again and flee into the street. Violet hides the boy in a car and shields him from the bullets with her body. Ferdinand Daxos shows up and orders his men to eliminate all the hæmophages in the building. He asks Violet to bring the boy back, since he was raised in a laboratory and his brain won't last long anyway. And also,
He's my son.
the girl with superhuman abilities doesn't believe the villain and escapes with the child, while simultaneously shooting back at her enemies. They descend into the subway and hop into a train car, where they relax for a while. Violet tells the boy not to have any illusions about her help and promises to get rid of him as soon as they find themselves in real danger. After getting off at one of the stations, Violet tries to blend in with the crowd. She contacts a friend and requests a shelter for her and the child, but he is unwilling to take the risk and refuses. Meanwhile, the curious boy approaches passers-by, trying to touch them. Violet tries to explain to the boy that doing so is dangerous, but she is not sure he understands her. Then she decides to try to get the boy to talk and asks him for his name. He hesitantly points 6 fingers.
6. You.
Soldiers show up in the building and Violet decide to draw the boy's red fluid. She wants to keep samples of his biomaterial with the antigens in case the child is eliminated. However, the boy pushes the rebel girl away. He threatens to scream, in which case they will both be destroyed. Stunned by 6's first words, the girl takes him to a safer place. She explains to him that there is a brutal war going on between the humans and the hæmophages. The criminal Dexys has injected an antigen into the boy's body in order to exterminate the mutants, but he may also be the key to their cure. If the humans find the boy, the hæmophages will lose their chance of salvation forever. Therefore, the boy is now the most valuable thing on the planet. Eventually, the fugitives arrive uninvited at Garth's hideout, who had previously refused to help Violet. He turns out to be a hæmophage scientist, and the girl persuades him to find out what exactly is in the boy. Garth informs her that the results will take several hours. Meanwhile, mercenaries led by Dexys storm the hæmophage headquarters. The rebels manage to corner the vice cardinal, but soon they find themselves trapped. The villain eliminates the hæmophages with inhuman speed, leaving only Nerva alive. At night, Violet watches in sadness as happy people fire some fireworks into the sky. 6 approaches her and she tells him about her favorite place with a swing by the dusty road. Now, as a mutant, she has lost the ability to experience simple human happiness. 6 assumes without saying anything that Violet is slowly fading away because of the destructive virus in her body. Later, Garth injects her with a drug that slightly improves her condition. The scientist shows her a notebook with strange chemical scribbles that the boy has written. Garth also regretfully informs Violet that he did not detect the presence of antigens in 6's body.
He's not someone who has a single molecule of vampire antigen in his blood.
Worst of all, the drug Dexys injected him with turns out to be radioactive and is slowly destroying the boy from the inside out. He has about 8 hours to live. After learning that Six is useless to her purposes, Violet takes him to a crowded supermarket. She tricks him by giving him a beacon so that the guards themselves will track him down, while she leaves on her own. However, the girl is immediately tormented by a guilty conscience and decides to return in order to save the life of the unusual child. All of a sudden, a series of shots are fired in the supermarket. Violet runs to the spot with fear in her eyes. It turns out that Six has planted the beacon on another boy and the security forces have taken out the other kid by mistake. Violet catches up with Six on a stairwell. As they are reunited, the boy is suddenly kidnapped by the rebel leader Nerva.
Sorry, B.
The girl rushes after them, but is confronted by hæmophages of equal strength. However, the young woman disposes of them cunningly, grabbing them by their long hair. Having defeated her opponents, Violet enters a tower where the rest of the hæmophages, led by Nerva, have gathered. The leader hangs Six over the precipice and tells his former associate not to make any unnecessary moves. He decides to tell her the truth about the boy's true purpose. It turns out that the antigen inside the boy is not harmful to vampires, but to humans. And it will exterminate them all across the entire planet. Violet doesn't understand why humans would destroy humans. But Nerva doesn't care. He accepted a lucrative deal with Dexys to destroy the human species. Although at first Violet also sought revenge on humans, now her priorities have changed and she intends to save Six. Meanwhile, the boy drops his shoes into the abyss so that the girl can hear how long it will take her to fly down. Violet lunges at her former associates with her katana and decapitates them in a matter of seconds. The enraged Nerva lets go of the rope and Six flies into the abyss. The girl continues her assault, destroying all enemies in her path. Her last victim is Nerva himself, whom she stabs in the throat with her katana. In the very last moment, she grabs the rope and pulls Six up from the abyss. Violet informs the boy that his father has injected him with a protein that is rapidly destroying him from within. If she doesn't find an antidote, the boy will pass away soon. The girl resorts to desperate measures and summons Dexys over a video link. The villain informs her that it is impossible to save the boy and asks for the experimental child back in exchange for a cure for the virus. Dexys admits that Six is not his son. He is his clone, the sixth of 8. He is completely indifferent to his fate and ridicules the rebel who risks her life for the boy's sake.
A vampire and a dying human child. What a pathetic picture.
Violet decides to go to the High Ministry and find an antidote for the child herself. Dexys is already waiting for her at the entrance with 100 heavily armed guards. Violet declares that he wouldn't have created a virus that affects people without first developing an antidote for himself. The villain laughingly admits that an antidote does exist. After removing the virus from the boy's body, he intends to disseminate it among the human population and give the antidote only to those who will pay handsomely for it. Now that the hæmophages have been all but annihilated, Dexys intends to instill a new fear in people. By doing so, it will be easier for him to control them and maintain his power for years to come. He orders Violet to hand over Six to him, but she has already drawn her weapon. The guards open fire on the girl, but none of the bullets hurt her. Dexys fires at the rebel at point blank and realizes that it is only a projection of her. All along, the real Violet has been watching from the roof of the building.
There's just too many, V. Just too many.
Realizing her helplessness, the girl decides to take Six to her playground. They ride on the swings peacefully, but the boy suddenly gets sick and passes away. Thanks to the beacon in the child's body, Dexys gets on their trail. He tells the guards to take the boy to prepare him for an autopsy, hoping to extract the virus from him. Grief-stricken, Violet offers no resistance and the vice-chancellor shoots her in the chest. The girl wakes up on Garth's operating table. After multiple surgeries, he miraculously manages to save her life. However, returning to the harsh reality upsets Violet.
For what? So I could do it all over again?
It turns out that Garth is in love with a young woman and could not allow her to pass away like this. However, Violet rejects his feelings lest they bring her further suffering. Later, the young woman sees a report on the news from the playground, and a sudden realization dawns on her. While arming herself, she tells Garth that the boy is in fact still alive, and she intends to go to Dexys' lair for a final battle. The scientist does not understand how the boy could have survived and tries to dissuade his beloved from the dangerous and pointless venture. He reveals to her that the chemical formulas that Six wrote are actually the cure for hemophagia. Most likely, Dexys developed it years ago, and Six memorized the formula. Violet gently touches Garth's face, letting him know that she will not back down from her plan. Upon arrival, Violet engages in a fierce battle with katana-wielding guards. After destroying all her opponents, she deliberately cuts her hands, turning her white suit red. A general alarm is declared in the building and hundreds of guards from all levels head out to confront the warrior. However, she disposes of them with ease. Then she infiltrates the room where Dexys holds the frozen body of the boy. The final battle ensues. Violet hurls her red liquid at her opponent in order to infect him. Dexys wipes the liquid from his face in disgust and removes his gloves for the first time. Then he picks up his sword and attacks Violet. After a short battle, he turns off all the lights in the room. Knowing that he cannot defeat the Supergirl in battle, he decides to disorient her by taking advantage of her poor light sensitivity. In the darkness, he decides to tell Violet the truth. It turns out that he is the one who created the virus that turns people into super soldiers, and he also intentionally became Patient Zero. Thus, by becoming a hæmophage, an ordinary lab technician has gained world domination. His abilities are superior to those of his rival, so he can fight in total darkness. However, the girl sets her sword on fire and the two can once again fight on equal footing. Violet deflects all her opponent's blows and ends up behind him. She fires a fiery blast from her revolver, setting Dexys on fire. The fire instantly spreads throughout his body, incinerating the villain. Having won, Violet proceeds to rescue Six. It turns out that while she was in the playground leaning over the boy, she started crying. Her tear made him a hæmophage, and enabled him to survive. Soon, however, all infected people will be healed and become human again, thanks to the boy's chemical formula. Violet and Six hold hands and walk out toward a new future.
But a world, as it turns out, where hope still lives.
Would you get rid of a virus that gives you superpowers? Write your answer in the comments and don't forget to like this video. See you soon.